Alright, so Kamen Rider Zeztz episodes 44 and 45. We're nearing the end point of this shit. Just about, like, what, 4 or 5 episodes left? Probably 5. So this is, like, the first two-part story in a while. Like, direct two-part story, not just stories that are links in the chain and continue the overarching narrative. Very much like the first half of the series. Now, 44 is basically a clip show, so I'm going to go over what little plot there actually is. So basically, it's an episode where Oblivion, I think this started at the end of 30 or 43. Oblivion releases these white flower petals that come down from the sky in the dream world and start erasing things that they touch. And as a result, things in the dream world start disappearing. You got regular objects, you got the people, you got a bunch of different things that start disappearing slowly as they drop to the ground. First, we get Nem meeting up with Zeke, who talks about how, like, or talks about her bad dream and everything, and she, and he says that she'll even forget him because of what's going on, and she says, "Unfortunately, I could never forget you." And yeah, and we get a little bit, or we get basically a recap of his backstory that has come up until this point, where he was born into a crime family, and that's all he really knew in life, and as a result, that's why he is as he is, which, yeah, we kind of figured that from the last couple episodes. So, nothing really new there. Then we get to, or after he gets touched by one of the flower petals, he starts disappearing, and Nem forgets him because of the power of Code Somnia. And after that, when she forgets him and he disappears, and he's actually happy that he's disappearing as well, she then uses her lucid dreaming powers to open up a door to go find someone to help her, which she goes to Nox. And he's in the dream world version of the house that the lady was keeping Nem in. And basically, he's just there. I don't know why he's there in the dream world. Maybe he's asleep at that point. It's really weird. It's really weird, this kind of thing, but yeah. So, he, or she asks him for help, but then he's just like, my purpose is done. And then he also talks about how, his Nox driver is offline, and he says that even if I wanted to help you, I couldn't. But then, as he's starting to disappear, when he gets touched by one of the flower petals, he says, "Don't forget your dream." And then he disappears and she forgets him. But she's aware that she forgot about someone, so she doesn't really know what the fuck to do. So then she opens up a door and goes to see Baku in the Zeztz room. And Baku is seeing Minami disappear. And he's crying over it, and Minami's just like, "I'm sorry, Baku," and then disappears. Nem instantly forgets her, but Baku doesn't. And they have a quick chat about everything. Oh yeah, there was also a flashback sequence for Nox as well, and everything. Then we get a flashback sequence for Baku as well, with his him and his relationship with Nem up until this point. But then he gets hit by one of the flower petals as well, and starts disappearing. And Nem starts tearing up, saying that she doesn't want to forget him too. But yeah, then she does ultimately forget him because of the Code Somnia stuff. The lady shows up and starts talking about whatever in regards to Nem, and Baku says to her, "Dreams surpass nightmares," as he disappears. And yeah. So then, with all of her memories, or her more recent memories, forgotten, Nem just goes along with the lady, and yeah, we get that. And that's just how the episode ends, with a more ominous feeling of that. Not really too much to this episode. I'm just going to say it honestly could be trimmed down and truncated significantly. Mostly this episode just goes for the feels, and I will admit a lot of this is sad and everything, and they do play it right. They do the music right. They do the acting right. They do all that. I think that Nem's actress is definitely, like, probably the strongest, like, female actor in this series. Granted, she does have some steep competition, because I think Minami, her actress, does really well as well. And Nazca, when she needs to bring it, her actress does really well. But yeah. And the lady, I don't know, she hasn't really had to show a full range of emotions, so I'm waiting to see what she does, if she does anything in the last several episodes, but we'll see. But yeah, and the thing about Nem's actress is she's only 16. She was only 16 when she shot this this show. The shooting for the show is already over, by the way, if you couldn't tell. If it wrapped up, I think, towards the end of last year, maybe earlier this year, maybe in the first few months of this year. But yeah. And like right next to Baku's actor, I think they're both very strong actors in regards to their like emotional range and everything, and what they get to portray from the scripts, and the direction given to them is very good. So yeah. So yeah, but there's not really too much else to say on this. It's just basically set up for the next episode. But this is also, yeah, this clip show episode, I think I already mentioned that. Basically recapping the second story arc up until this point to a degree. Just more so the relationships each character has to Nem, and all that, you know. So yeah, oh yeah, and also Baku vows to find Nem, basically. So yeah, so 45 is basically, you ever watch The Truman Show? It's basically that plot condensed into a 23-minute episode of this show. And so Nem wakes up, or no, she's in a dream where she's the only person in the world, and then she wakes up from it, and yeah, she was having a nightmare. And we see that she is now in a world where the lady is pretty much fully her mom. They both live in an apartment together and everything in Tokyo. And Nem is a mix of an actress and an idol, which she was already an idol, but now she's an actress. And I do like this little meta thing that they have going on, where the series that she's currently shooting is about to start shooting or something like that is called I'm trying to remember, Supergirl, Sheriff Gavon, which, yeah, reference to Space Sheriff Gavon Infinity. And don't worry, I'm going to be doing 2 more podcast episodes on that. Then after, when the movie comes to Blu-ray and the subtitlers get the Blu-ray rips and are able to subtitle the movie, I will do that as well, whenever the hell that comes out. Because obviously, since it's still in movie theaters in Japan and nowhere else, it's not gonna reach anywhere else until it hits street date on its Blu-ray and DVD release. So yeah, which, you know, is whatever. Same with the Zeztz movie. Unfortunately, it's currently it's currently out in theaters in Japan and I think China, but nowhere else. Is really dumb, because Toei did announce on the Kamen Rider Global Twitter that they were looking at international releases. I don't really think we're probably going to get an international release of the Zeztz movie until like the Blu-ray release. I can easily see Shout Factory releasing this series on Blu-ray either towards the end of this year or at the beginning of next year, and including the movie on its own disc. Maybe the live show as well. I would not be surprised if they also got the live show, because like Toei did release that on its own streaming platform website thing. and did add subtitles, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just give Shout Factory the video file with the subtitle file and they just use that. But yeah, we will see. And just put that on the disc with the movie and you're all set. Maybe they also, I really would hope that they would put the Agent Minami shorts on maybe the disc for the movie as well. Because those are kind of, they're like side things, but they're also kind of important because they have like foreshadowing for stuff that's going to show up in the show. Kind of similarly to Space Sheriff Gavon, like side content as well. I'll probably do a video on that as well, or a podcast episode on that as well. But yeah, so basically, yeah, she starts shooting that, and I've got to say, it's a mix of like what seems to be the Space Sheriff Gavon like formula, maybe, where maybe Minami in this reality is the only Gavon in the show and everything, but then they combine it with the spy and or the spy like motifs and action of the show, or of Zeztz, and I think it's honestly a bit better. I kind of wish that they included like, I know it would have been like wasting a little bit of money, or even if they just used one of the suits from Space Sheriff Gavon Infinity, maybe from Gavon Luminos or something like that. If they used a Gavon type suit for this sequence when they're shooting an action scene with Nem, I think that would have been cool and give her her own little henshin thing. I honestly think that this plot could have easily been 2 parts. Like if they like I said, truncated the plot and everything of 44 to speed things up a bit, and then went into this part of the plot about halfway through that one, and then they could have the rest of this episode to show more of the dream world that the lady has put Nem into. I think that they could have had a lot of fun with it and everything. That's kind of the thing with this episode, is that this episode definitely feels like truncated. Not necessarily that it's like badly paced or anything, but I feel like they could have expanded upon things in a way that would have been a lot of fun from a meta-narrative sense. For people that know what Space Sheriff Gavon Infinity is, that would be pretty cool. But, you know, whatever. Granted, there's several things in this series I feel like they could have spent a little bit more time on, but just didn't for some reason. But yeah. And there are also twists and turns in this series I, for one, didn't see, and 2, think could have been better. But at some point after the series ends, I'll do a full series rewatch and recap just so I can get all my thoughts in. So, yeah. After it's done and I can rewatch it from start to finish and just relearn everything from earlier in the series, and also take notes and everything. But yeah. Where was I? So they shoot on a green screen set, which I think this is just using the actual set for some of the action scenes in Zeztz and Space Sheriff Gavon Infinity. And they literally have just an enclosed, or mostly enclosed, green screen room where they have some things in the foreground that are real, but the entire background is in real time, just rendered in a computer and everything for stuff that they have set up. And I actually really like this. Pretty much we knew that if you knew anything about the filmmaking of the show, you knew that they basically use a similar thing to what Disney does with their shows, with the Star Wars, Marvel, and whatever other shows that they have going on in production in California and everything. And they have a green or blue screen room that they have the actors act against, or even just a projection room where they project things so that the actors know, at the very least, most of what's going on in the things behind them when they have to do like special effects like that, because it keeps I think it keeps costs down, it keeps the production schedule going at a decent clip, and then And then it helps the actors to be able to see what they're acting against, so it's not just a like regular green screen thing, you know. That Nem is shooting, um, the people playing the goons that she's fighting disappear after the fight is done, and everyone starts freaking out about it because they see it happen in real time. Nem, she's not really too phased by it because she I don't think she noticed it because I think everyone around her was supposed to be either to the side or right behind her. So she doesn't notice it immediately. But she's told about it by, funnily enough, in this reality, for some fucking reason I can't understand, Minami is her agent. Fujimi and Nazca are part of the regular police force, and I think they're there for, like, security reasons or some shit. I don't understand why they're there, but entirely, but like they're there for basically security reasons, I'm pretty sure. And then and they see it happen in real time, but she doesn't, as well as the film crew as well. They see it in real time too. So she tells her mom about it, the lady, and the lady tries to reassure her that everything's okay, that these things don't just don't happen every day and whatever, but she tries to reassure her about it. But yeah, and then she has Nem go to sleep. But then she starts to think about, and like takes her back to her room and everything. But then when she gets outside Nem's room, she starts to think about who could it be that's causing what Nem described to her. Because that shouldn't be happening, because they're in an illusion world that she created to keep Nem happy and safe. So, yeah. And I think she starts to like think about who could be doing that. So then the next day, she hired a bodyguard to protect Nem, just to make her feel safe and everything, because she doesn't want Nem to feel unsafe. And so Nem is currently doing an idol concert show thing for her birthday. I gotta say, idol culture in Japan just seems kind of weird, considering like it seems like the whole appeal of it is, at least from this showing of it, is like you have either a girl or a group of girls or whatever performing on a stage in a room, or even just maybe a stage at a concert theater or something like that. And they're attracting all these guys, like teenage guys, probably, and young adult guys as well, that pay money to see them and are obsessed with these girls and everything, and are kind of maybe taking advantage of them. Granted, a lot of like culture in regards to like music and performing live and everything does kind of take advantage of that a little bit, but at the very least there's a little bit more showmanship about it, and it's not as obvious in a lot of cases. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it just seems a little skeevy and a little weird. But yeah. But so she starts performing the song, and by the way, her bodyguard in this part is Nox. So yeah, so then she starts performing the song, but when she turns around for her performance, or everyone in the crowd disappears, and she notices and just stops. The music stops. Then Minami comes out and asks her what's going on. Nox comes out, notices everyone is gone after Minami does as well. And they're just wondering what the hell happened to everybody. So, yeah. But then who comes out and, because Nem has been hearing a voice for this entire episode, and it's the Oblivion nightmare. And it transports them to a quarry where the lady comes in transformed into what the fuck is the name of the thing? The nightmare. I'm sorry, Phantom. And it starts fighting Oblivion, but Oblivion calls her out for trying to trick him with an illusion of Nem. Basically, after it created Nem's worst nightmare, or the bad dream, it wanted to absorb her into it, and the lady gave it an illusion version of Nem. It didn't notice at first, then disappears, but then after a bit it notices and then tracks down where the lady has taken Nem. But yeah, and it calls her out for trying to trick him, and like traps first Nox and Minami, then the lady with like these like vine chain things. Then it like hypnotizes Nem and tries to get her to go through the door it creates because it wants the real Nem. But who comes in and crashes the party just before that can happen? But Baku in his Zeztz extreme form. Yeah. So then he planted a message in Nem's like nightmare, where it said "Recall the dream" on one of the posters that Nem sees, and then he says the same thing, and basically reveals that he was the one that planted that message, and he starts fighting Oblivion, and yeah, and he slowly gets Oblivion to release all of the memories it took from Nem. So yeah, so it slowly, or she slowly reclaims her memories on the shit that's happened before. And I swear during one of these like quick flashes of like things that happened in previous episodes, they show things that happen in the premonition dream that realistically she should remember, but should maybe have a memory of the flashback for when Baku was recapping everything to her Fujimi, Nasuka, and Minami, I believe. Yeah. And Nox. And yeah, I swear I remember seeing like a flash of something that happened in the premonition dream. I'm just calling that out as BS, the fact that they put that in there. But anyways, yeah, and as Baku's fighting this thing, it tries to trap him in the same vines that it trapped the other three in, but Baku calls his sword and starts fighting with it. You don't notice until a Kamen Rider will pull out like their like main weapon, but like a lot of the Kamen Rider fights are mainly like mixed martial arts, like genuinely, and it's really weird that most of the fucking like combat in this show is genuinely just mixed martial arts. I'm coming mainly from like a more Sentai background, where unless if the theme of the show for a particular season is built around martial arts, usually like and this is more in Power Rangers, they'll have the main characters outside of the costumes fight like hand to hand, or they'll call their weapons from their Sentai form or from their Ranger forms and everything. But then when they're in the Ranger forms, they'll have what the fuck is it? They'll mainly just fight with their signature weapons rather than martial arts. Whereas here it's just very different. And I do like that. But yeah, so he fights the Oblivion Nightmare more, and he gets more memories out of it until Nem has all of her memories back and remembers Baku and everything. So Baku beats Oblivion to the point where it disappears, and the vines on the others are released. But then he starts fighting Phantom / the lady, and he tries to do his rider kick with the Great Banish, but unfortunately that doesn't work, and she just creates an illusion of herself and basically does kind of the after image technique from Dragon Ball, where it's an illusion of herself and then she appears a little bit away, or a ways away, and then tries to fight him more. But he then opens up a door and says to Nem, "Let's get you out of here." And they go to the Zeztz room. The lady is obviously dismayed at the fact that Nem is gone again. But yeah. So when they get to the Zeztz room, basically they're what was it? Basically Nem thanks Baku for finding her and getting her out of there and everything, and Baku then says good morning Nem, or Ohio Nem. If you don't know, in Japanese, good morning is Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohio for short. So yeah. Nem is wondering what the hell he's talking about. And then she wakes up to find her sitting next to her, or to find him sitting next to her in the Zeztz room. But we see that it's the real him in the real world, where he has his regular black hair, he's in his normal clothes and everything. And he says to them, "I found you," in English, Japanese accented English. And then he also says good morning to her, I believe, as well. And it's revealed that he found her in the real world, and as a result, and was able to wake her up finally, without having to sacrifice the blood moon in the dream world. Granted, it's also possibly because, like, the fact that the dream world seems to not exist anymore because of the fact that the Oblivion Nightmare, I think destroyed it with Code Somnia, but I could be wrong. Will I imagine in the first part of maybe the opening scenes of the next episode, we will get an explanation as to how Baku found her. I imagine something to do with maybe Fujimi and Nox, because Fujimi and Nox were last seen at the house that the lady was keeping Nem's body at and everything, and just to see how the hell they exactly found Nem, because I was actually wondering if Nem's real, like, physical body in the real world still existed, or maybe if her body maybe got transported to the dream world by the lady. I think they could have gone either way and explained it, and it would have been fine. But they chose this instead of what I was thinking was going to happen. So yeah, we got Nem finally awake again after the premonition dream, and I really like how they ended the episode. And everything is just so good. It takes it a step farther than, like, I compared it to The Truman Show, where we don't see Truman actually going into the real world. We just see him leaving the set of the TV show he was on for 30 years or so. And I honestly can't wait to see what happens next. Obviously, he's pissed off. Baku is pissed off the lady. And the lady just lost what she wanted, which was to have Nem back and have no, like, anything in the way of her reconnecting with Nem and them actually being a family, which I feel like maybe the, her finally sleeping again and also being partially possessed by, Phantom is definitely clouding her judgment. And she just, I don't know, she just genuinely, seems like she doesn't understand like, what she's doing wrong. And that is ultimately going to be her downfall. You can just tell. I don't quite understand, like, I think I said this already. I don't quite understand why there's alternate reality versions of Minami and Fujimi, Nasuka, and Nox. Well, I guess Fujimi, Nasuka, and Nox kind of makes sense because they were already on the police force before Nox joined Code and started working against them. And then Fujimi and Nasuka were part of the paranormal research part of it. Or paranormal investigation part of it. But I don't know, it's just kind of dumb, not gonna lie. But, you know, gotta get their actors, their paychecks, so I can also understand that. But, although considering Fujimi, actually no, they were in there for a second, because, like, we did see a flash of Fujimi and Nasuka in the dream world disappearing as they were trying to get into Baku's room. But, yeah. Which I didn't mention because I forgot about it, but also it's not too important. It's just kind of there to have that kind of despair feeling. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this episode 45, because of the fact that, like, I like The Truman Show. If you guys have never seen The Truman Show, it's basically kind of like, you can definitely tell the inspiration was definitely, like, old school Twilight Zone, where, the entire setup, if you don't know what that is, it's a 90s movie starring Jim Carrey, I think late 90s, and basically it's where this dude, Truman, was given up for adoption by his birth mother, and while she was still pregnant with him, and they had a whole company, a whole media company adopt him, and then built a whole fucking dome in, I think, Hollywood or somewhere in California. Probably not Hollywood, but somewhere in California. It's fucking huge. It has to be like an island that they did it on, because Jesus Christ. But then they decide to put actors around him, and basically kind of like a sociological experiment kind of thing. They do a reality show showing his entire life from birth until, well, they were hoping death. But then Truman starts noticing irregularities, and anachronisms with their world and everything. That starts to get him to realize something's not right, and he slowly figures out what's going on, and then he escapes. And that's kind of like the whole thing with, and if anyone's like mad that I spoiled it, is like, that's a fucking almost 30-year-old movie. Go watch it. It's really good. Usually it's like free on YouTube with ads. Go watch it. It's really good. Like, especially if you like Jim Carrey movies, or even if you don't really care for Jim Carrey, like, this is a more serious role for him, and I think it was one of his first serious roles, so go watch it. There's a little bit of his goofiness, because, you know, he's a comedic actor, but, like, he definitely brings that energy when he needs to, but it's mostly just serious. Go watch it. It's really good. It's a really good Jim Carrey movie. And just a good movie in general. But yeah. But it just gave me, this episode just gave me those, like, feelings and everything, the same as that did. Like I said, I think that this could have easily spread into a two-parter where they really, like, slowly get that going in regards to that, and embellish upon some things that were there. Not that I think that this episode is bad as it is. I just feel like they could have easily expanded upon a few things that I think could have easily done with that. But I understand that they probably didn't want to spend more than an episode on this, especially when the last episode was a fucking, like, clip show. But the second one that the series has had, and it's unless if you're more into the emotional thing about it, it's kind of the less interesting one. Because of the fact that the plot moves extremely slowly in 43, and then, like, what little is there is just shit that we knew was coming anyways, and probably could have taken just 10 minutes at best. But yeah, that's just me. But yeah, I do like the meta references to Toei's shooting of the show, the Space Sheriff Gavon reference, and all that, which I think could have been a little bit more embellished upon, but I don't think what we have here is bad. And I really just like what's going on here and everything. I like that the lady suffered a fucking humiliating defeat. We finally get some really good voice acting from Naruto's voice actor for the Oblivion Nightmare. Most of the time, what she's been doing for this thing and its previous form is just really maniacal laughing. And while she is good at that, like, I felt like we could have gotten better voice acting and just more from her up until this point. And I feel like we got that here, and whatever they're going to do for the next several episodes, they're going to bring it, I hope, with her having some really sinister lines as the Oblivion Nightmare. Yeah. So that is basically it for my thoughts on episodes 44 and 45 of Zeztz. So yeah, finally, or I managed to get this out in a reasonable time after these 2 episodes came out. So yeah, I really don't have much else to say on this. I thought both of these were good. 45 was stronger, and 44 I felt like could have moved at a bit more of a fast-paced clip. But I understand what they were going for. They were going for the more emotional aspects of it. I get that. I just feel like they could have done it a little bit better. But yeah. So guys, not really much else to say here. For the YouTube outro, links in the description on my shit. Subscribe if you want. And I'll see you guys in the next one.